All right, says the stream is live.
All right, great. Welcome to another episode of the Weed and Wrestling Podcast. I'm your host Lash, along with the pod goddess Lanaya
Wait, hold
and
on.
guest
They
and
didn't play the
Willie
intro. Oh my god.
when he gets in.
Awesome.
Yeah, didn't play the intro, but whatever. We're glad.
Hello, everybody.
All right, I saw the intro. It looked like a bunch of lottery balls.
Not far off. But yep, another episode here of the Weed and Wrestling Podcast. Again, last year, pod goddess Lanaya when her shit's working and she's not muting herself. Gus and Willie when I guess he gets the email or the message. We were having some technical difficulties coming into this here, so no big deal. We're learning this new service, StreamYard. River Flame, we're done with them, but so we're doing our best, and once we get up and running, you know what, we might as well make a video on how the fuck to do streaming. Just give people warnings and just all kinds of things on the do's and don'ts of starting a live stream. But
I don't even know why it's so fucked up with this new shit. Like,
yeah, but we're trying. We're trying. But today we got a lot to talk about. I'm going to be leading the discussion on Macho Man Randy Savage later on here in the cast. In the meantime, we're going to talk some more current, stuff going on, mainly the news of the event going to Saudi Arabia or not. That is up in the air given the Israeli-Iranian conflict. And there's a lot of controversy also going to that, into just even mentioning it on WWE's part as well. So, there's a lot to discuss here. Otherwise, for those of you who don't know of the Israeli-Iran conflict going on and America sticking our nose into it, there's a whole bunch of controversy over that, which has left Night of Champions in jeopardy as to whether or not they will be doing it in Saudi Arabia. As far as this recording is going on, as of June 24th here, it's still on. It is still on, and here we go. Willie needed to be added to the stage.
What's going on?
Willie, what's up, bro?
Willie needed to be added to the stage. Sorry about that, Willie. Yeah. We are figuring out this tree. Willie's here, yeah. The whole conflict has left it in jeopardy and has left a lot of controversy. As of right now, they're still betting on it. They're still planning on going there.
Right.
I have my doubts, as well as a majority of fans and people do right now, is whether or not they should even go there in the first place. That's always been a big thing about them going to Saudi Arabia in the first place. It's always been a big controversy of just going to Saudi Arabia. Now it's a matter of just human safety and lives genuinely at stake.
But I mean, that's just it, man. I mean, all right. So if you want to, the common thing would be, the common sense thing would be cancel the show or reschedule it or maybe move it to another venue. The problem comes in because you have a multi-billion-dollar company with WWE and TKO the problem comes is that they spent a great deal of money to make this happen. They're bound to lose. I think what the trajectory is like $50 million, and that's not an easy number for big businesses to digest. This is not like a local show that got rained out because the roof collapsed and you made like $300 at the door. We're talking about billions of dollars, and that's not to mention all the money that went into the tourism over there, the hotel accommodations, the meet and greets that they're probably going to do days leading up to. Plus, let's not forget they have Friday Night SmackDown scheduled to air from Saudi Arabia. So I understand them wanting to continue, but logically, you're going to put your staff, your talent at risk. Plus, let's not forget, you're going to put the locals at risk because now any WWE event becomes a high target. So, yeah.
And that's a lot of where the biggest concern is that there's a lot of concern over money. What about the concern over the fact that just a day ago there was 5 staff members, production staff, stuck in Qatar, didn't know if that they were going to be able to even make it back to America, let alone go to Saudi Arabia, that they would be stuck in Qatar. And that did get resolved. But the whole situation in itself, the ceasefire, right within 12 minutes of the ceasefire being called, Israel dropped bombs again. So it's not even a matter of like getting like political as to who's doing right of what. It's a matter of war, and civilians are targets of war, and especially high profile ones. And if I was them, that would, and they're wanting to make a statement, that would be a target for me, and I don't want that to happen to people. And if they lose money, so what? The lives that they could lose, hopefully nothing happens. Hopefully it goes off without a hitch. But this is, a good 100 or so. I think WWE has a total of like 300 staff, including the wrestlers. Total, they're very small company in that fact. But most of them are going to be there.
Yeah, if like I said, if they decide to cancel the show, they lose the $50 million. They just going to try to recoup the $50 million from somewhere else, either with increasing tickets on house shows, merchandise, cutting some employees. I mean, they're going to recoup the $50 million some way, somehow. So it happens in every business.
It's really a drop, a bad drop, a heavy drop. But we're talking about a company that was bought for $10 billion. They were bought for $10 billion. There's much more than that in total assets that TKO and all them have. So this is really a drop in what they could lose, financially, and really. And I think Lanaya can attest to this, is that it just already with Saudi Arabia and their blood money, there's already enough controversy going there as is.
Absolutely. But that was a Vince thing. Vince was the one that signed that contract.
Yeah.
They're always just honoring it. That's all that is.
Yeah. And so it falls on so many different plateaus to where what are the positives? Really the most that you can do is hope. Hope that these couple days that they're there goes off without hitch.
Right.
So I guess there's that level of just paranoia, but rightfully deserved paranoia. So I guess we'll kind of see how that kind of comes about. In regards to what they do, they have already stated too, which kind of leaves them open to the idea that this might be a possibility that they'll have to cancel. But they have like 5 different venues between Ohio and Pennsylvania that they have like at the ready to, if they're to drop it and have to do things last minute, they can throw something together.
Yeah, but the problem with that comes in now is you have ticket holders that have purchased tickets. They've spent money on flights, they spent money on hotels. You know they're not going to cover those expenses. Number one, and number two, not everybody's going to be able to go and transition. To fly out to Ohio or these other venues. And then you're gonna have to sell tickets in like record time. You have literally, what is it? Today's Tuesday. You have like maybe 4 days.
Yeah.
To put these tickets on sale. You have to make a decision, not tomorrow. You need to make a decision now.
And then
Not
also
now, yesterday, like so.
Yeah,
they dropping the ball.
And on top of that, you also have the idea that people have been complaining about ticket prices really for the last like year and a half, 2 years. Right when they got their momentum up and right when they knew that they were getting ready to sell, Vince jacked up the prices. The reason why they were reasonable for a long time in the PG era is because that was where they could make their most money because they weren't getting the ratings. And now it kind of falls back into this little juxtaposition to where if they do this last minute, are they going to be charging $2,000 for a front row seat ticket? Like how many people are going to be ready on hand to have it to be buying that? I know at the end of the run when I went to WrestleMania 40 and I had a bleeder seat, it still cost me like $700 for that ticket. And that was WrestleMania 40 and prices have gone up, way up since then. And it kind of falls back to this juxtaposition again of how much money do they think that they're going to make, and how much can they start making these prices more reasonable.
Listen, TKO, we can sit here and laugh, joke, have fun, but all seriousness, they're not. WWE is not it's not really a family company as it once was. Like, we gotta understand, we out of that era. They in the business to make money. That's what TKO bought them for. They want to make money. Mm-hmm. Like they doing with UFC. They want to make money. Us as the fan, yes, we understand. We spending money. We get it. They're gonna raise the prices. They have to make a profit. So again, let's see what happens. I mean, Saturday is right around the corner. So. They should have made a decision by now what they're going to do.
I feel the decision's really out of their hands.
Absolutely.
Once it comes down to it, because we could be speaking right now, and they could be pulling off some bombs and some shit right now. We can wake up tomorrow morning and all civilian travel could be canceled throughout the Middle East. Because it basically was for a day already. So
I think the other thing you have to realize too is that by this whole situation, they have to keep up appearances. So they cannot keep these jacked up prices for this particular event, because if they do, I guarantee you, if they decide that we're gonna go local and we'll come back to the US to do the show, the arena will look empty as fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah, but to me, it's a double-edged sword because listen, things happen, right? You know, I never been to the NBA game, but my favorite player was Kobe Bryant. You know, obviously the closest arena is Madison Square Garden, right, or Barclays, depending where you live at in New York City. These people were paying record prices to see these people play. Madison Square Garden, I think a court-side seat is like $3,000. Imagine if the person you see playing, that this person you paid all that money to see doesn't play. It happens. Life, things that happen in the world happens. Things happen. You know, I don't think people will be upset. It happens. You know, us as fans, we take a risk as well. You know, I don't think there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. I think there leads into what he was saying. What Gus was saying though too is like, I know for me, if I was actively working how I was to be able to afford WrestleMania tickets,
right,
and that came, and I'm right next to Pennsylvania. I'm here in Maryland. They came to Philly, and those tickets were $700. I'd be like, nah, this ain't WrestleMania. It's Night of Champions.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't do it. Now, if they were like $300, then we'd be talking. Then I'd be on a train or on a bus out to Philly real quick.
But who is making these prices? Is it TKO or WWE?
Well, when I went to WrestleMania 40, the buyout hadn't fully happened yet. So that was WWE prices. So I'm gonna assume TKO is definitely jacking up everything.
Yeah, I mean that's something we need to find out. Because again, they could just be sitting back and seeing whoever is making the prices. I would think it's Nick Khan the one making prices. With UFC, is probably Dana White the one making the prices since he's the promoter. So I think TKO is just sitting back and see how much they're making. That's just my personal opinion. I could be wrong, but
yeah, I agree.
No, I don't think if TKO is bound to lose money, I don't think they're just sitting back and just taking this on the chin. Not for nothing. If I'm about to lose 50 mil because of a situation, I'm in. My foot is in the door. I'm looking to see what needs to be changed, what we can do to make this happen. Because I, for one, if I was running TKO and WWE, I would not want to lose 50 mil. They're probably going to lose some sort of money, but I would not want that number to be 50 mil or more.
Right, but again, say if you go to, God forbid, knock on wood, nothing happens. That opens potential door for lawsuits too. So either way, they're going to lose money. Either way, so it doesn't.
Yeah, so I guess in the end of it, like all we can hope is
something happens.
Because it seems like they're going there no matter what, unless unless something changes in the next couple of days, which honestly it could. But from what I understand is because of the situation. Shout out to Cultaholic, they've been doing shit all day about it. That most of the staff have been there for a couple weeks ahead of time. And outside of those 5 ones, no other people have had troubles getting in. And that, from what I know, they're flying like everybody out right now as we speak.
Right.
So hopefully nothing happens in between here and then. And that's all we can really do. So.
Maya, any thoughts? Oh, as I turned to the Maya, she's gone. She's buffering.
Now she's real life buffering.
No, but like since she's not. Oh, there she goes, or she froze.
There she goes. So she froze. So it's podcast.
All right, we're gonna take this man to recognize our sponsor, W Energy Drink. You could find them at online at www.dubby.gg.
Hell yeah. And we'll be getting more into that soon here, especially with our wonderful sponsor. Excited about those energy drinks. But right now, going to get into the main event of the podcast here. And I'll try to cover as much of it as I can for you, Gus, before you got to go to work.
Yeah, unfortunately, I got to save the world one person at a time.
Yeah. Which I part of me wishes that they heard what we said during our technical difficulties originally. That would have been hilarious. But outside of that, Macho Man Randy Savage, not only one of the greatest of all time, definitely there was a Mount Rushmore of wrestlers. Macho Man's on there, for sure, and a long story career. Really had a lot of amazing matches. Lot of different things happen in his life too. Randy Poffo, as he goes by, which it was Pofo, and then the dad changed it to Poffo, Angelo, and became Angelo Poffo and Judy Poffo, his mother, which she was Jewish German and a Holocaust survivor. And his brother Lanny Poffo, they traveled around because dad was into wrestling. Angelo Poffo went all around the country, and the kids went with him until they settled down in Illinois. And one of the cool things about just the mentality of Macho Man that you heard is that and he talked about it, that he used to escort kids that would get bullied to class because he was just always fought for the underdog. Even as a kid, he did that. He was ready to fight for somebody that he thought was being wrong. Amazing athlete, incredible athlete. He played basketball, football, and baseball. He didn't really date throughout high school because he was so focused on just sports and everything like that. A big thing that ended up happening is that he did get selected up for baseball into the minor leagues. There and in 1971, he started out as first base for the St. Louis Cardinals, and then eventually went to the White Sox. But he was first base, and then he ended up being a catcher for one game, got his shoulder injured. And once he got his right shoulder injured, he needed to learn how to use his left hand more. So he learned how to pitch left-handed and catch left-handed. So he was ambidextrous, and he eventually healed his shoulder. So he was a switch hitter and switch pitcher, which is pretty much unheard of. To be one, let alone both. He was just a freak athlete in that way. And he did well for his couple years there. He didn't start wrestling until the off season, winter of 1973, and he started wrestling with his dad, and went under the name Randy Poffo. It wasn't until he got out of baseball, which his contract had ended, and it ended badly. He was very bitter about it, and he apparently broke all of his bats and said that he never wanted to touch another baseball bat again. And it was Dad, how do you do wrestling? And he got super into it. You got the name Randy Savage in 1974 from Ole Anderson, because he said the way that he wrestled was savage, and that it would be a better name than Pafo. So he started going by Randy Savage, and being a second generation wrestler, and also along with his brothers, his dad, him and his brother, they went through all the territories, like through all the states over the course of like around to 1977, 1978, when Angelo starts ICW, and and they're a pirate. They're a rebel territory, an outlaw territory, because they're invading into the Midwest, specifically down into Mid-South, Jerry Lawler's territory, Memphis. So they were doing that for years until it kind of came to a head, to where ICW wasn't making enough money, and they had done good business with Jerry Lawler, that he would help buy out their promotion, and then Savage would come and work for Memphis. And from there, that's one of the matches that I have in my top 5 was a precursor to him going into WWF. It was a loser leaves town match that he had with Lawler in Mid-South. Lawler had beaten him for the Southern Heavyweight Championship just 4 days before then, and then there was a loser leaves town match, and the following week he was on WWE, at the time WWF, and his like first introduction was on the mic. Like on the mic was on Tuesday Night Titans. That was like the first time he ever really got to get onto the microphone, but his debut match, Vince really talked him up in there, and they did is that he was the biggest high talent, to free agent talent to come out. So listen to this cast that he had. He had Bobby the Brain Heenan, Mr. Fuji, Classy Freddie Blassie, Jimmy Hart, all vying to sign him, to have him be in their stable. And I mean, right there, you're talking about pretty much the murder's row of like greatest managers of all time. And instead, he selected Elizabeth, and they had been dating for about 2 years at that point when she was brought on the TV. And the biggest thing was that she worked like for a reception staff thing at ICW, and that's how they met. And they fell in love pretty quickly, and kept things going pretty good for a while. But the biggest thing was that the character that he had was that he was this controlling boyfriend, that didn't want anybody to look at Elizabeth the wrong way or anything like that. And the character started to bleed over into real life, and that's when they began to have problems. And they did get married about a year after he was in WWE, but that one wasn't televised. The one that ended up getting televised was just about a year before their eventual divorce. So the televised marriage versus where they were actually at in their real marriage, where there you go. That was the real fiction, was the marriage. But his costume inspiration came from pimps. And he spent a lot of money on his costumes. Randy also saved a lot of money. He was known as a friendly cheapskate, and Pomp and Circumstance became his theme song. and I understand, it had been used and stuff, but it didn't take a prominent graduation standpoint till the 80s, and many claim that's because he was using it all the time. I'll buy that. I'll buy that for $1. But biggest thing is that he was known to be a perfectionist and analyze all of his matches and work out all of his matches really well. Specifically WrestleMania 3 with Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. That match, they worked out over 160 spots. 160 spots that they wanted to hit, and they wrote it down on notepads, and they would quiz each other for weeks before this match. Just being like, Randy, what's part 30? Part 30, that's where George he goes off and he grabs Miss Elizabeth, and then I grab him back. Part number 32 is pin attempt number 3. And they would rehearse and practice out this match, and thankfully they did, because many will claim that it's the greatest wrestling match of all time. I'm one of those people, for sure. That's an amazing match in so many ways, and I'll touch a bit more on it later. Yeah, and then you got the Mega Powers and the stuff with Hogan, where when the Mega Power stuff did form, they were friends, and again, it was kind of story bleeding into real life. At one point, Elizabeth had straight up left Randy, that he was gone for a couple days, and when he came back, she was gone. She went down to Hogan's house, and she was staying with Hogan and his wife, kids. And he thought that she was just visiting. And then Randy showed up like 2 days later, and it was like, I just want to talk to Elizabeth. I just want to talk to her. and then Hogan said it about like 10 minutes later, there's a couple of cop cars out front of the house because they got into it, and so they didn't have the best relationship, especially there towards the end. Really, luckily enough, from their relationship, Randy wasn't a bitter ex or anything like that, and had basically like kind of kept his distance away from her and Lex Luger starting to mess around. After their split, he kind of kept his distance from her, just out of one, respect for himself too, but also just probably didn't want to be around that, especially because of how much Luger was using at that time. Not that Randy was shy away from that stuff too. Another key woman in his life, Gorgeous George. Gorgeous George was a stripper that he met at the club after she got into a confrontation with a man there who had pushed her down, and he like got down to her side and picked her up, kind of some knight in shining armor kind of shit. And they became a thing, and she became his valet on TV, and they partied a lot. She got him really into partying, and she fully admits it. She talks a great deal about how Randy got to the point where he would have almost over $1,000 worth of ecstasy pills on him in his fanny bag at times. And so that they were using steroids and that to just keep everything going. And she even points out an episode to where her and Randy were on TV tripping balls on acid and ecstasy. It's when they're all dressed up in red and they just come out and like say a couple things and leave. But yeah, the steroids and pills and everything like that became an issue for him, like how it did many wrestlers. But he split up with George amicably, apparently, and in fact, her son looked at Randy as more of his own dad even after their relationship. Apparently, he was a good fatherly influence on him. So
he
that was
set up
good.
cameras in her house. It was surveilling her.
Oh, I forgot. Yeah, I was going to bring that up.
She ran away, dude. It wasn't amicable. She was scared.
Well, eventually amicable. But not that
later
way.
They became friends. She ran away from him.
But I was going to bring that up because that was the next part of the note.
All right, well, let me take this moment before you get to the next. Let me take this moment before you get to the next part of the notes because my time is running short. I just want to add, and I'm sure you're gonna run into this in the later portion of your report. But Randy Savage, greatest rapper of all time. With that, I'm out, guys. You guys have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your stream.
All right, thank you guys.
Subway Mania.
Yeah. We got to interview them cats quick. No, it's funny because I was getting more towards the end of life, kind of stuff there. He did end up marrying his, kind of high school sweetheart. And they, had a decent marriage up until his death when he had a heart attack at the wheel and crashed a car and died. That was in May 20th of 2011. And he left a great legacy. One thing that I wanted to hit is my top 5 Macho Man Randy Savage matches. For sure. But before I do that, what are your guys' memories, thoughts, and feelings on Macho Man?
Oh, man. I ain't like how Vince did him at the end. Age ain't nothing but a number. He thought he was too old. He thought he couldn't kick it. And, he went to WCW. Some people thought he was going to be the man. But next thing you know that guy comes over. I don't feel like saying his name, who I'm talking about, that had this crazy contract. Yeah. And, he was constantly being screwed. So I just think, but absolutely, he's one of the greatest wrestlers ever. And I learned some stuff today I did not know. Thanks for sharing that. Definitely.
Yeah, I tried to do a little more deep dive into his personal stuff before I got into more technical aspects of it.
Yeah, because I think I touched on a Randy Savage match last week with Bret Hart, where he had the title for like a day, and Hogan used that clause for him to get the title back.
I do have one of those. I do have one of their matches from that feud because they did feud for a little bit. They feuded for a good 6 months.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I do have one of those on my top 5. Lanaya, how about you?
I mean, I really don't know because you said all the ones I chose. I'm not going to say the same thing over again. I refuse tonight. So.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, you touched on it. There is the match he had with Sting, where he double crossed Sting with the NWO. That was a pretty memorable one for me, with him. I remember being actually shocked, and now I'm like, why was I shocked? But I remember actually being shocked then, and like kind of disheartened. Like, no, he did that to Steve. Sting, he did him dirty.
Not Sting.
So I mean, that's the only thing I could really add.
Yeah.
I think one of the best feuds ever in wrestling was Savage and Page. That feud was great. That was some incredible booking with that. You know,
Yep.
They got that right.
Yeah.
One of the few things that WCW got right was that feud with him and Page. Definitely.
Yeah. Which that one is actually my honorable mention. Specifically the Monday Nitro to where Diamond Dallas Page first beat Randy Savage.
Yeah.
That was for Diamond Dallas Page. He said it was like a dream of mine that I didn't know that I wanted when Randy Savage came up to me and says, "Yeah, I think I'd like to take the diamond cutter tonight." And and he says
the
that
way he talks about that is like crazy.
Yeah, and it's so good. That's one thing that you will also notice in my top 5 too, is that some of Randy's best matches he didn't win.
Yeah, that's true. I agree.
He's one of those very few wrestlers that his best matches he probably lost, but he still put on such a good match and such a good storyline that you don't even remember the loss. You just remember how good he was in it and how good he made the others in it. And that one, that's why it's my honorable mention, because that was a classic. It was an amazing Randy moment. Amazing moment for Diamond Dallas Page. Helped make his career. Number 5, I have the Ultimate Warrior versus Macho Man at WrestleMania 7. The retirement match that they had. Many say that this is one of Randy's best matches, but everybody says that it's Ultimate Warrior's best match. And I think that's because he's working with Randy, and Randy probably made him do a lot more. Watch some clips from that, and it was it looked a lot better, and it was really good, and the story was really great into it. Obviously, they didn't fulfill like either one of them fully retiring, but that was also where he reunited with Miss Elizabeth. After he had been through Cherry and all that, and really, really great match, just awesome. Next, I got for number 4, Macho Man versus Ric Flair. Woo!
Lick the Flair.
WrestleMania 8. For the WWF Championship. Just awesome. This is probably the bloodiest Ric Flair ever is in a match. In fact, it's the match where the gif of Ric Flair bleeding and going woo and bleeding on that, the fucking little gif that comes from this match and his interview afterwards. The whole thing was started off with the fact that he said that he had an affair with Miss Elizabeth. Ric Flair said that he had an affair with Miss Elizabeth, and of course, she, fucking just she denied it, but just driven by desire, he wanted to come after that man, and wanted to get the championship. But yeah, he ended up getting that roll up. Yeah, he finished it up with roll up. Which one thing I've noticed too when looking back at some of Randy's matches here the last couple days, he might have used the roll up as an actual finish more than any other wrestler. I think this match and Steamboat specifically are two big ones that finish with a roll up. But he either did that or had that done to him in a lot of matches. And, nowadays the roll up is just like you expect a kick out. Or if it is a roll up, it's like super quick or something like that. It's not cleverly done. But yeah, amazing match. Really cool too. There was like a bunch of fighting and stuff right after the match too. Mr. Perfect and everything. My number 3, and this one is just more going because I haven't seen it fully yet. I've seen the clips from it and just the story behind it and the importance of it when I was researching. Is Macho Man Randy Savage versus Jerry the King Lawler at the Mid-South Coliseum and June 3rd of 85. This was the match that helped culminate their whole feud. At one point, Lawler was bleeding in the match, and this was back when if that would happen in certain matches, if somebody was bleeding, they would maybe stop the match. That would be a thing that they would do at certain time. And that was like the whole big drama pool was that Lawler was like, no, I want to keep on going. I want to keep on going, even though he was bleeding all over the place. And he ends up giving him a pile driver and getting Randy, but Randy and him put on a clinic with each other at that match. And just a couple days later, it's the loser leaves town match that they have that finishes their story that allows them to go to WWF. Great match. Another one, and this one is Bret the Hitman Hart versus Macho Man. This one is at Saturday night's main event. And this one, it's not even necessarily notable for the story. It was mostly the Hart Foundation. It was kind of like stalking Elizabeth and terrorizing. But the match itself is just, you got Bret Hart and Macho Man Randy Savage. These are two men that can wrestle paper bags. These are paper bag wrestlers, as I like to call them, where they're just that goddamn good. And they work. And I watched that falling asleep the other night, right before I fell asleep, watched that match. It was really, really good. And number one with the heartbeat, and everybody should know, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat versus Macho Man at WrestleMania 3 for the Intercontinental title. I said it earlier about what was going on with that. The whole match. Hey, give me my lighter. Oh. Mom had to come in and grab some. The whole match was predicated off of the fact that Savage had attacked Ricky, and had attacked his larynx, and Ricky was really selling that he had a super throat injury there for a bit, and so that was like kind of the big segment that led up to it. And they both get like little promos before the match too. that kind of helped culminate and everything. But as it says from Ricky's mouth himself, they worked out over 160 spots in that match. Wow. I had to light it on that one. 160 spots. For those of you playing the home game, most spots that a match would get, maybe 15, maybe 20, that they really want to hit. They worked out everything to the most nuance of moments, to just simple moments of somebody just going over a rope, but all of that culminated into what just about everybody can say is the greatest match of all time. I'd say it. I've put on that match for friends of mine that don't even watch wrestling, and about 5 minutes into it, they say, "Why is this so entertaining?" And it's because you have two of the greatest wrestlers of all time going at it full force, no stop. The pace of that match is breakneck. It doesn't stop, and yeah, it's my favorite Randy Savage match, probably my favorite match of all time. I don't know what more I can say about Randy.
I was watching this highlight. I always watch this, but you remember when you remember when Savage turned heel?
Mm-hmm.
It was at Super Bowl when he joined the NWO and they beat the crap out of Roddy Piper.
Yep.
For me, that was one of the greatest heel turns ever. I thought that shit was funny.
Randy's done that a few times.
Yeah, in a way, no. But what kind of made it like funny? What kind of made it funny was Bobby the Brain Heenan. Like he was like, "Oh my God, his children's home watching this. They gotta stop." Oh, they're trying to. They're gonna take him out. They're gonna take him out.
Bobby Heenan, God rest his soul.
Yeah,
there is nobody, no commentator ever knew how to make something more ridiculous better than Bobby the Brain Heenan.
That's so true.
He's just that was his niche of either being so subtle with it, like it just jabbing, or just knock out just ridiculousness. We'll have to do a profile on Bobby the Brain Heenan too at some point, because he managed a lot of great wrestlers. He
was around for a long time. He did a lot of good things. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and God rest Randy Savage.
Yeah.
I guess some fun stuff to talk about. There is the Hogan diss track and the rap album.
Yeah.
Endorsed by 50 Cent. But the beef had become real, like basically throughout the late 90s. Like he had spite towards him throughout NWO. For the way that it was, I guess he got into it under the impression that it would be more of an equal ship, but it's like, who the fuck are you thinking that you're working with, Randy? Like,
yeah, really. Where? Brooke or Hogan?
Yeah.
But you know what's so crazy? Because Savage even said that, like, it's kind of like, I don't know what's going on with CM Punk and Seth Rollins. People say they don't like each other, but you wouldn't have thought that Hogan and Savage had some kind of beef, because they was always around each other outside the ring. I remember there was an episode of Baywatch. They was together, so it's crazy.
Yeah, they end up like resolving their stuff later on, according to Hogan, at least.
Yeah, Hogan is just.
According to Hogan, they were cool before the end. Then again,
yeah, according.
But then again, it's Hulk.
And then again,
you can't believe, as Jim Cornette said it best, you can tell he's lying from the moment he opens his mouth.
Absolutely.
Yep, that's how you know he's lying. Jim Cornette said it. I didn't. I'm just quoting him.
There you go. Make sure to keep that one in your corner for when Willie wants to come at you. Jim Cornette.
Jim Cornette has like catalogs of hate against Hogan, so
he has an omnibus. He has an omnibus. Fucking Hogan shit. Yeah, you want to talk about real hatred for Hogan? Fuck.
Yeah, that.
Yeah. Woo.
Which leave it to another
videos just about how he lies.
Yeah, leave it to us yet again. We can't get through a single episode
without Hogan.
He's so fucking influential.
I didn't start it. That's the thing.
Shit.
We talk about wrestling, and we talk about this. Yes, he's one of the most influential. Doesn't mean you have to like. Yeah, he's a piece of shit. You influential piece of crap.
Yeah, it's just like, damn it, he's so influential.
He's always there, and he's still trying to be there.
Yeah. Which that's right, Bubba the Love Sponge saying that he was gonna die. Saying he was gonna die, he's on his deathbed.
Yeah.
Probably was that nasty ass American Bear. Who knows? I'm sorry, we're live. I'm sorry.
I don't even drink anymore, and I know that tastes like dishwater. When you make a knockoff of PBR, like, come on.
Yeah, that's.
Come on. Like, PBR has blue ribbon for a reason. For a reason. It's a staple. All right, Hogan, you can't invade everything and make it about you.
Right.
Yet he seems to do it on this podcast. Anyways, I love Macho Man Randy Savage. He was so much better than that. And
he's one of the best, Macho Man.
I will
one of the best. Love him.
I will seriously go off and watch like Macho Man promos. Which shame on us and shame on me for not including him when we were talking about promos. Because he's the only one that I will go back and just watch his shit, you know, because the green always rises to the top. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
There's space is the place and times where it's meant to be. Everything is meaningless. I wish I could have talked with him about existentialism. I'm sure. I bet he was an existentialist just from that promo alone.
Maybe. Probably.
Which the hand tricks of the cream of the crop promo too, like that's what helps make that promo so legendary. Just where the fuck is he pulling all these creamers from?
Who's animated in general though?
Where is he pulling on? And Mean Gene Okerlund, God bless Mean Gene Okerlund for also being able to sell his craziness so well. Just, Macho Man, what are you doing with that? Which
oh yeah,
which I love seeing Mean Gene outtakes. Mean Gene Okerlund outtakes where he's fucking cussing up a storm. What the fuck are you doing with that?
oh, okay.
But otherwise, I don't know. I feel that about wraps it up for the episode. I don't know. Feel it for you guys?
Oh no, nothing. Good job.
Yeah. You guys be able to like, share, subscribe. A couple clicks from you means a lot for us. Especially to our Facebook viewers, our Facebook followers. Come on over. Algorithms not matching up. We got like
we just got our Facebook Live.
Yeah. Hey. Hallelujah. Hopefully it's Machoverse. Who?
It's Megan.
Sadly, Machoverse wasn't able to make it on to tonight's show, but we're gonna have him on at another date. But I'll bug him on that. Be like, at least like like the podcast that you missed. Plug it.
Please like his videos.
Please like our videos. Otherwise, yeah, dude, like, share, subscribe.
Well, everyone, don't forget to tune in Thursday, where I'll be talking about the legend, the icon, the Stinger.
Woo!
Woohoo!
Yeah,
I'm so excited.
He's another woo guy. His woo's different from Flair's though, because you gotta put your hands up. You gotta put your hands up to that. You can't do the Sting woo unless you're doing woo.
I'm just saying bye, everybody.
Bye.
Woo!
Bye.
Fuck all my neighbors. Good night, everyone. See you Thursday.
All right. See How long is the outro video?